Hey, good morning, new gardeners. I'm here with Addison Weaver, who is a church planner that our church will be supporting through Kairos Ministries. And it's a really cool organization. If you don't know about Kairos, I'd recommend you go check them out and learn more about that. But first, I wanted Addison to sort of introduce himself, talk about who he is, where he came from, how he got to this point, and his hopes and dreams for the church there in South Haltom City.
Hi, good morning. My name is Addison Weaver. It's great to meet all of you virtually. Look forward to meeting y'all again one day, hopefully in person. But we are just at the beginning of a new journey for our family. I have my beautiful wife, Vicki Weaver, and two little girls, Braylon and Evelyn, who are 7 and 5. And we are setting out on this new adventure of starting a new church and planting a new church in Haltom City. I've been involved in ministry work for 14 years in full-time ministry, working in various churches throughout Texas, in Central Texas and Temple, and spent the last 9 years working in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in North Richland Hills. But a couple of years back, we experienced a very clear calling that God was calling us, the Spirit was moving us into something new, something uncomfortable, but a space that God was calling us into, and that was a space of starting new churches. And through a series of open doors and conversations, we were led to starting a new church in Haltom City, which is an area of town just east of downtown Fort Worth, Texas, and the Metroplex. It's a community and an area that has a lot of struggles and needs, a large group of families that are walking through poverty and through different situations. The school systems are working through meeting the needs of kids through lunch programs and various things. There's just a really big need there, and we felt a very clear calling towards that direction. And so we just started that job, if you will, that ministry, officially just here at the beginning of October of this year, and we are now moving full force in that direction. Haltom City is an area that has gripped our hearts for the last year and a half. We've been praying for and getting to know city leaders and areas there. It's an area that 30, 40 years ago was a thriving part of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but over the years, through movements and through people moving into the outer regions and suburbs, it's a region that has a lot of people in the community, but a lot of resources that are lacking. And they're in the midst of a revitalization, and we want to be a part of what they're doing, not just in terms of the community and business, but also be a part of the spiritual revitalization that's going there. And so we are, our passion is to remind people of who they are and whose they are, that all people are made in the image of God, and that we want to help people see that they are accepted by God, that they are restored through Jesus, and that they are empowered by the Spirit to grow and live as boldly as He would call them to be, and letting them see that as their community is being revitalized, that God is wanting to revitalize them and their hearts, just as He's working through all of us. And so we're in the midst of that process and excited about where God's leading.
Awesome. Yeah. Remind people who they are and whose they are. I like that. I like that a lot. So one question I think I always have about things like this is, how are you preparing yourself? So I know that you're not officially launching like public gatherings for a while. So what does that lead up time look like? And what are your hopes for that time?
Sure. Well, here in the last part of this year, this calendar year, we are spending our time really kind of building relationships and building teams. A lot of conversations and just getting out into the community is really what we're doing for the next several weeks and months with city officials, school leaders, business owners throughout the community, and really kind of getting to know people and build relationships. And then our hope throughout 2024 or 2023, getting a year ahead, throughout 2023 is really to continue capitalizing on those relationships and really start some discipleship communities within some of the different gathering areas that they have within Haltom City. Some of the areas that are gathered within most are within the apartment complexes that are through the city, and really getting to know the communities within there and meeting within parks and school gatherings. And so we're going to be really kind of investing in the community and getting to know people through those areas. And then as we build relationships, we'll start some discipleship communities and build some discipleship programs and missional communities that as we grow, we'll then be looking at a formal Sunday gathering sometime later towards the end of 2023 and possibly the beginning of 2024.
Cool. So one question I always want to know is, what are some things that have happened throughout your life that you feel like have sort of pointed you towards this, have pointed you towards getting involved with Kairos in the first place, and getting you, into this specific area in South Haltom City?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the idea of church planting, I mean, if you had asked me 2-3 years ago, was one that wasn't even on my radar. I was raised in a conservative church, growing up in church all my life. And my dad was a leader within the church for as long as I can remember. My mom has worked in a church since I was in middle school. And so church life, as we traditionally know it, has always been a part of what I've known. I didn't expect to go into ministry when I first headed off to college, but God quickly made it clear that he was calling me into a life of ministry, and been doing that for a number of years. But the idea of this almost outreach, this outgoing, extroverted, evangelistic nature of what church planting can entail is not one that I originally would have set out on several years ago. But there were a couple of circumstances through conversations with friends and just through personal things going on within our family. As our girls were getting older, we began to see needs and things that were not being met. And there was a clear calling just one day of God saying, Addison, you recognize the need. You know that something needs to be done. Why won't you do it? Mm-hmm. And it was almost kind of this sense of the thing standing in my way was me. It wasn't like that God isn't capable. It wasn't that God isn't making things open and clearing up paths, but it was that I was finding every excuse, not even intentionally, but just I was comfortable. I'd been working in ministry, had known church world all my life. The idea of going and starting a new church from scratch within a community that is seeking spirituality, seeking God, that was foreign to me. And God was saying, you don't have to be qualified. I've already qualified, and that I'm qualified. I'm just calling you to go and do. And so we took that step a couple of years back, kind of started sharing it with friends. They kind of started pointing us in different directions. A close ministry friend of mine got me connected with a guy named Scott Lambert, who is connected with Kairos, and we have been building a relationship with them for the last year and a half. It has been, again, just one of those things. It's each step along the way, it becomes more and more evident that this is where God is leading us. We've become more confident, not in our own abilities, but recognizing that God is leading us. A lot of people would describe me in the past as maybe introverted in some circumstances, depending upon who knew me. But it's become more and more clear that we're doing work that God is already doing. We're just partnering with him for the work that's being done there. And why Haltom City? It actually kind of is a funny story. I'll try to keep it pretty short. But Haltom City has a water tower. That's the Haltom City water tower. It has a giant buffalo on it. And it's a water tower I've known all my life. I have family that lives in the Fort Worth area. And I always knew we were getting close to my cousin's house or my uncle and aunt's house when I saw this water tower. I didn't know it was called Haltom City when I was a kid. But when we moved here, I saw the water tower and recognized that's the water tower I always saw. And I knew we were getting close to family. So it kind of carries some nostalgia. Yeah. And one day when we had made the decision, that God has called us into church planting or into starting a new church, we really didn't know where he was calling us to. And I was driving one day, just praying to God as I was driving. And there was almost this moment as I was driving across the highway, across on one of the overpasses, I looked out my window and saw that water tower, and almost in like an instant, I just felt this call, like almost this spiritual call of just like, Addison, what if I'm calling you to your own backyard? And so we started looking more into Haltom City, really began building relationships with people there, learning more about the city and the area. And it became, again, our hearts became more and more gripped the more that we talked with them. And we recognized that there was a need in every conversation we've had since, as people in the area who have grown up in the area, as they learned that we're moving to South Haltom City, that they have been like, oh, that's a perfect spot. Like that is an area where like y'all will do great, and like that God will move. And so it's just been confirmed over and over again. And we're excited as we continue to get to know the community there and build relationships with them there.
That's cool. It's interesting to see the ways that your story sort of mirrors our church's story in a lot of ways. We try to be people who are for Hermitage. We want to be people who, we're about our communities thriving, and whatever that looks like. And so for us, we do a few different things. We do mobile food pantries for people in our community. We try to be a positive presence in the school that we meet in. We encourage people to go into community cleanups and things like that. And so one question I have for you is, like, as you spend this next year and a few months, sort of spending that time together and trying to get more involved in the community, what sort of things are on your radar as far as finding ways to get plugged in? Because I think we could probably learn from that as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. A lot of it is that one of the big things is recognizing we're not trying to come in and do something new or try to come and do a parachute plant of any sort. Like the community, there's a lot of work being done. We want to partner with the work that is being done already there. Excuse me. And so we're wanting to come in, and there's an organization called the Community Enrichment Center that does a lot of that kind of work with the mobile food pantries and with clothing and with partnerships with the school. And so we want to come in, and we're going to get closely connected with them and start helping serve along areas that they're already serving in. And so one of the things is partnering. A lot of the community gathering spots that are met in are within parks, and they love to do within the community, have community block parties and do things like that. And so helping put some of those on and helping sponsor with food and with other ways of really getting out into the community in spaces that they're already in, and really meeting them where they're at in those. And so those are part of some of the things, partnering with organizations that are already there, and then also meeting them in life that is already being lived. Not coming and trying to force something new or to try to do something that may have worked in another context, but instead meeting the community and people where they're at.
Yeah. So I have one last question, and then I'll let you go. The question is, what is something that you've learned through this process already? Something maybe that like something that you thought that was wrong, and you changed your mind, and some experience helped you see that, or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think there's a lot of different ways I can answer it, because there's been so much that's been learning, but one of the big things has been, again, I referenced a couple of years ago, just like viewing as like, oh, this is something I can never do. It was the mindset. But here, kind of in the midst of it and kind of getting on the other end of things, is seeing that like I've overcomplicated what it means to be a follower of Christ. And I've recognized that over the last couple of years as we've set out on this journey. Is really beginning to break down and see that though it seems daunting, though it seems overwhelming, at the end of the day, being followers of Christ is really just about getting out and being with people. And as we are being with people, being Christ among them and being Christ with one another. And it's not about making sure that all these I's are dotted and T's are crossed, that we have everything perfectly organized within planning center or whatever church program is being used to organize Sunday worship or all these things overcomplicating with the programs and events that may be done. But those are all ways of serving a need that sometimes can get easily lost when I allow myself to just get caught up in the weeds of day-to-day things. But really, it is about just being in life with people, and it is really, that is where you find blessing. That is where you find the Spirit moving. You find God's kingdom growing. Is just in those small conversations within people, and seeing that, this really is not, while it seems overwhelming, it's really a blessed task, and it is a fun journey in life to be on, and recognizing that this is something that we can do, not because of any strength that we have, but because of what Jesus has done for us, and that by just doing what Jesus would do out in the world, things just seem to fall into place, and life seems to be lived more abundantly.
Amen to that. Addison, I just wanted to say we're really excited about the work that you've been called to, and any way that we can support you, let us know. And yeah, man, we're so excited and wish you all the best.
Thanks. I just want to say thank you to New Garden, and we're looking forward to this partnership and everything that's, we're thankful, and there are not enough words to express our thanks, and we're looking forward to the future and what God has in store with all this.